Five Rings Podcast, your weekly amateur sports and Olympic sports show with Duane, Rollins, and Kevin Laramee. And now, without further ado, here's Duane Rollins.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? This is Monday. I am Duane Rollins, as Kevin just said quite ably in the intro there. Kevin Laramee joins me as always, and this, my friends, is Five Rings, the Five Rings Podcast. This is going to be our only day this week where we relax and don't talk about what's going to happen next Saturday.
Yeah, we don't talk about soccer. No soccer today.
Yeah, because I need a little bit of a rest because it's going to be pretty intense the rest of the week.
And there's a lot of other topics as well, and I'm glad I'm talking about the Olympics because, Duane, let's start here, a little bit of levity here on this Monday morning. I don't know why I always associate video games with levity. Maybe just me. Maybe it's real life. Anyways, I've talked about the lack of video games for next-gen consoles, for this present day and time in the Olympics in the summer or winter. Well, someone heard me somewhere. Someone heard me about 2 years ago on this show. I said, there's a ski video game. It's called Steep, and it's pretty cool. They should do something with the Olympics with this. Someone listened. Someone made it. And it's coming out tonight. And I haven't played the demo, which you can do big air and downhill. And let me just list the event quickly here, Duane, because it's not the entire Olympics. You don't have curling and other sports like this.
Oh, wait, you don't have curling?
No, exactly. So you're not going to be interested in this video game. But you have here, big air. It's a ski video game. So you have ski and snowboard related events. Big air, downhill, giant slalom, parallel giant slalom, ski and snowboard halfpipe, ski and snowboard cross, ski and snowboard slopestyle, slalom, and Super G. And I have to tell you, having tried the downhill, it is quite impressive and it's quite fun. You really get the excitement, the speed, the danger. Oh, you jump, you miss your jump, you land in the fence, and you're KO, and you have to start over again, and it takes like 3 minutes to get down. You're like, no, I missed my gate, damn it. So it's pretty realistic.
I don't know if we really get the full danger.
No, because you just press start and restart. You don't have like spent 12 months in a rehab center. So yeah, you do have that small difference.
Yeah, you're not going to hit that tree, but that's probably for the best.
Oh, anyway. Yeah. Exactly. It's too bad there's no like bobsled and skeleton and luge, because those are always fun. And I'll have to plug my old Xbox 360 and play Vancouver 2010 once again, I guess.
See, I don't have a new gen console, but I
you don't have an old gen console either.
Yeah. Well, no, I actually caught up to the world and to 2010. Like I'm in 2010 now. I have a PS3. So
okay, then you can get Vancouver 2010. Just look on eBay or somewhere. It's probably one of the best video games about the Olympics done ever. If you actually have that nostalgia or that feeling that you need to play bobsleigh while you watch it on the telly, which is kind of my case. I kind of like to play what I watch, but I'm just weird this way.
Fair enough. All right, I'll look that up, and I probably would rock it. And 7 years later, I'd get online and I'd be right there, ranked to the top of the world. Probably no one else is playing it. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, it comes out tonight at midnight. It's already downloaded on my console. It unlocks tonight, so I'll try the full game. But big air and the downhill has given me a lot of hopes for what could be a very interesting game to play tonight.
And someone out there needs to make a curling game, by the way, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly. Someone else get together and create a game with the rest of the sports that are not featured in this one.
What we're doing right now is we're avoiding our first topic, and our first topic is, God help us, Russia.
How many years have we been talking about this for? It's coming up to 4 now.
Yeah, it's, oh, God, yeah. I mean, look. What do you do with them, Kevin? This is my question, and I don't know what the answer is, because basically the Sochi games, it turns out, were completely corrupt when it comes to the doping stuff.
Like in Mission Impossible movies type of stuff, where you have trapdoors and corrupt people and people double agents, spies, and hidden microphones, hidden chips, hidden whatever. Icarus movie on Netflix if you want to know more about what actually happened in Sochi. It's like, why we become pessimistic, a little bit cynical? It's because of things like this. It's because, turns out our suspicions were right.
Well, no, it's terrible. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm trying to take a photo of something that I'm looking at right now in my studio. I have a photograph that I'm going to tweet out on the Five Rings podcast, which it's of Ben Johnson.
Okay,
So
so you that photo talk, I'll get it and I'll post it on the video feed so people know what you're talking about.
yeah, it's kind of an ugly photo because my light's not on right now. But at any rate, I'll post it out nonetheless. But the point being is, like, I've lived this for when was 1988? How many years ago was that?
That was
Hashtag,
almost 30. When you look at
yeah,
it was 29 years ago.
Jesus, I'm old. Anyway.
Yeah, I was 5. Well, 4 actually.
Yeah, there you go. I remember that clear as day. That I can absolutely remember the moment I knew. But anyway, but with Russia, actually, if you look at the Russian media, they still list themselves as having won the medal race in the Olympics, which I guess is really all they care about. And that's the problem with this stuff, right? Like, they can take the medals away at the end of the day, but
Yeah, but they'll never
ultimately
admit it. Like Russia's never going to admit it. For them, they won, and that's all they care about. Like, all right, we got what we wanted. Doesn't matter the ramification because we're not going to accept them. So, it's whatever we say it is. It's a dangerous slope.
Like, okay, let me ask the question. There are a couple of options that are out there right now, right? Like, you can either do the full on kick them out,
Ban them all.
or you can do something in between and just deal with the how do you deal with this? Like, clearly they were corrupt. Clearly every Russian medal, whether clean or not, from the Sochi Olympics is tainted. What do you do with it?
I think it's unfair for all the athletes to necessarily go back in time and ban them in retroaction fashion. But for the future, for right now, for Pyeongchang, there is a movement now to just ban Russia outright. And then if you really want to compete at the Olympics, you kind of have the onus of proof on you to make sure you kind of are clean and go to the IOC and say, I'll compete under the Five Rings flag and maybe get that opportunity to get a medal there, but not association with Russia, association with an independent athlete. And maybe that's the way to go for now, because the state-sponsored doping, it's not even a scandal, Duane. Is it fraud? Is it like
I mean, there's history there. I mean,
it's organized. It's like a conspiracy here. Because it's literally, that's what it is. It's the state-sponsored Russian conspiracy for 2014 and maybe before.
I mean, on one hand, it's good because we're talking about this and we understand that it's out there. But it's awful for the Olympic movement in a lot of ways. But at least we're talking about this because we understand that the East Germans, that the Soviets, I use the word Soviets purposely here, that other people back in the day were cheating in the same way. Like the 1970s, in your city, the Montreal Olympics are, forget Sochi, the most doped Olympics probably ever. The East Germans in the pool were ridiculous. How obviously they were doped. I've talked before, like when we talk about Canada and the fact that they hadn't won a gold medal on home soil for how many years it was before Vancouver. I guess 76 plus. We can do the math there, but
well, yeah, they didn't win one in Calgary. That's the case. That's why.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
There
was another way to put it that it seems a bigger achievement, but yeah.
Off the top of my head, I believe it's the 100-meter butterfly. The Canadians finished 4th, 5th, and 6th, so they didn't get a single medal, but the East Germans were 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So yeah, and they all cheated. So basically, if you want to look at that, you could say that not only did Canada get a medal in Montreal, or they should have swept the podium. Alas, I don't know. What do you do? Like, I just don't know. Like, I'm honestly, like, I'm in my mind, I'm working this out right now, and it doesn't. Because if you boot them, if you kick Russia out of the Olympics, they are going to burn the house down with them when they go down, and that's what terrifies me. They are going to, and we're going to talk about this in our next segment a little bit. If you kick Russia out, they are going to refuse to accept it, and they are going to make everyone around them go down with them.
You think they just show up still? Like, yeah, you kicked us out, but you banned us, but we're here. What do you do now?
I don't think those. I hear you, but I don't
No,
think
I'm
they'll do
I'm
that.
exaggerating here, but
Do you
who's
remember the
president of
Goodwill
Russia?
games
Like,
back in the day?
sorry.
The Goodwill. Do you remember the Goodwill games?
The only thing about the Goodwill games that I ever remember is in Mighty Ducks 3 when they go and play. Is it Mighty Ducks 3, Mighty Ducks 2, Mighty Ducks 2 when they go to the Goodwill games in Atlanta and win the Goodwill games as Mighty Ducks versus the USA, anyways. But yeah,
that really went a little sideways. That movie series after the
that's
first.
well, the first one was all right, but the second and third, yeah, kind of a stretch.
I grew up playing hockey. I'm not sure their tactics would have worked. But
Gordon
anyway,
Bombay, man, was a terrible coach when you look at it. Like the 5V, yeah, that's not working.
why was Canada not in that tournament either? Like Iceland, come on.
Well,
Anyway,
it's goodwill, I guess. I guess we weren't friendly. I don't know.
yeah, we just understood that we would have won.
Oh, we didn't give Ted Turner any money because basically that's what the Goodwill games were, right? Ted Turner's little pet project in the early '90s. But yeah, it was a terrible idea.
Anyway, the point I was making is if Russia's out, what I fear truly is that they convince or manipulate or whatever other countries that are in their sort of sphere
Of influence,
to pull it as well.
Oh, that could. Jeez.
And then they create
Then
their
we
own
find
kind
ourselves with a game with half the country not there. Maybe a third of the country's not there.
I mean, we might win the medal race and be us in the States, but
Yeah, well, we can maybe win it outright, but that's something else.
yeah, U.S. and Canada would be 1-2 if you pulled those countries out. Well, I mean, Norway might
that's
be.
the fun thing with having the Winter Olympics in Korea. Like, Korea's not going to win the hockey tournament. Doesn't matter if they're hosts. Like, it's not like in Sochi where
They're going to do very well in short track, though.
yes, and maybe even long track, but some other sports, yeah, will be open. They'll be more open, and getting slowly excited watching athletes gear up. And it's a shame for Eric Gay and back spasm over the last few weeks in skiing. But Lindsey Vonn too got a big scare this weekend. But I'm slowly getting excited for winter games again, Duane, and watching competitions on CBC and online. I've been really getting excited for the next few months ahead.
Fair enough. Anyway, we should talk about Lindsey Vonn more in the days ahead.
Yeah, no, well. So yes, there was the aspect that she maybe would have sacrificed her World Cup season if she could have had the opportunity to race against men. Didn't turn out, and she got a big scare. Hopefully, she's fine after her fall in Lake Louise last weekend. But what she could potentially do if health. And speaking of health, if her health stays good, she might be a good contender for PyeongChang. Marie-Michelle Gagnon for Canada, unfortunately, had a big fall and had a knee injury, and her Olympic dream seems to be over at this moment, and that is unfortunate.
No, for sure. That's the precarious nature of ski racing. But Lindsey Vonn is a remarkable athlete that deserves a lot of respect, and she maybe hasn't had she's had some Olympic success, not maybe as much as we would have expected her to have, which is really telling of how talented an athlete she was. So respect to her, and hopefully she gets to go out in her own way. I love that she's also, she seems like a robot. She might be around in 4 years' time. Who knows? But back to Russia for a second. Kevin, I don't mean to belabor this, but I legitimately don't know how you deal with them. This was such a obvious manipulation of what was happening 4 years ago, and this was how we started this show. And I at the time I wish we were
we didn't have hindsight because we weren't there. We did talk about that. I remember talking about 4 years ago, like the Phantom buildings. Remember in Sochi, we're like, oh, the Phantom buildings, they're there just for show, but there's nothing actually going on inside. Well, maybe there was Icarus inside those Phantom buildings, and now with hindsight we know that was the case. And yeah, we couldn't know at that moment, but it's a heist. It's a heist of one of the biggest one. Like, there should be a Ocean's Russian, like Ocean's 11 Russia or something, because that's basically what they've done. They divided a plan to win all the medals, and I'm exaggerating, but it's just to show the idea. They divided a plan to win all the medals and to get away with it. And then after the fact, like, oh, you did this, so what are you going to do about it? And that's where it becomes a problem.
They had their moment, right? We talk about this all the time. Like, as great as it is when they, return the medals and get them to the rightful people, whatever, they still don't have that moment. They still don't get to stand on top of the podium.
Yeah, and you can't take that moment away when it's happened. The athlete or the country or the fans got the glory, got the moment, got the all the feels, all the emotion, all, you know what I mean? It happened, and you can't take those memories away. And you wish you could, but you can't. And that's what got stolen. Is that moment? It's not about the medal. It's not about the value of that medal. It could be what the medal could mean for your career after and how you value that. But what I mean is, it's that moment that the athletes work hard for 4, for 10, for 20, for 28 years. It's that moment, that time you raise your foot, place it on the podium, and hear your national anthem and hear the crowd cheering for you. That moment is what is robbed by organized state-sponsored doping like Russia in 2014.
I mean, you don't have to be an Olympian to understand exactly what we're talking about here. Any of us who have played sports at any level whatsoever understands how important that moment is when you cross the line, when you score the goal, when the final whistle blows, whatever. You understand the joy, the emotion, everything that goes into that. And it doesn't matter what trinket they give you down the line. And obviously an Olympic medal is a great trinket to have, but it's still just it's not what it's about, right? And
Yeah.
that's what this steals.
You know what you just remind me of? It's a trinket that reminds you of the moment. That's what it is. It's just a little fancier than that souvenir that you bring back from Mexico or something. But that's what it is. It's just a talisman that represents that moment and the sacrifices that you made to bring you to that moment of glory.
I'm, not to talk about my quote unquote studio again anymore, but I have a medal hanging up that I'm looking at right now, which is the medal I won in wrestling in grade 12. I wrestled amateur wrestling, not off the top rope.
That's too bad. I was going to ask you, what was your finisher? What's your finishing move?
The
Power
DDT.
bomb, DDT, nice. Jake the Snake.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is, I'm looking at this medal, and when I look at it, what I think about is not matches. It's not even really wins and losses. It's about the experience, the training, the day-to-day. It's about all that sort of stuff, and that's what it represents. And really, the trinket, as we call it, which is a bit flippant, but at the same time, when you get it 4 years later, that's what it kind of is.
No,
right?
no offense to medal winners. We do not mean offense by calling it a trinket, but it is about the moment, no?
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking at the medal count right now. The official medal count when the games ended was Russia 13 gold, 11 silver, 9 bronze. And it's hard to look at that and not go, really?
So about that cross-country skiing sweep of the podium, it was weird, and well, we know now in hindsight, we talked about it in the last show, that it was a doping podium. It was a dope podium, and it was unfair to skiers like Alex Harvey, who just finished 4th in Lillehammer or 6th, and other skiers around the world. First of all, when you have a cross-country event and there's no Norwegian or Swedes or Finnish on the podium, there's something shady here.
Fair enough. I don't know. Not that the medal count really matters that much, but I'm pretty sure that Norway has officially won it by now. When you look at the actual
the revised standings, yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to even keep track of how many athletes from Russia have had their medal taken away, but I'm pretty sure it's more than the 2 goals that would have put Norway over the top. At any rate, Kevin, this is I don't know what to do. I honestly don't. I'm thinking this out in my brain as we're talking right now, because I am legitimately concerned what Russia will do to the Olympics, and we're going to talk about that, as I said, after the quick break in a minute. It's like almost a bully thing. They're basically threatening the Olympic movement. If you pull us out, if you kick us out, we're going to burn the house down. And what do you do with that? Because you want to do the right thing, but at the same time, you want to protect your product. You want to protect what it is. And it frustrates me so much because I love the Olympics so much, and this is hanging over it in a way that makes me frustrated, Kevin. Anyway, shall we take a break?
Well, let's just plow through because I don't have anything.
Oh, you don't have a bumper? Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a bumper. I'm going to load the Christmas Five Rings bumper, but they're not loaded yet. So let's just plow through and Russia and hockey this time.
Yeah, we want to talk about the KHL, and it's really just a continuation of what we're talking about. The KHL, for those that don't know, the Continental Hockey League, the Russian professional league, they are sanctioned by the IIHF,
IIHF, yes.
Yeah,
Ice hockey,
International
the International Ice
Federation.
Hockey Federation. Yeah.
Yes, they are sanctioned by them, unlike the NHL, which is the only league, as Kevin said last week, that is not. So they are required by statute, whatever, to go to the Olympics because the IIFC, Why do I want to call it football club anyway?
Yeah, no, it's not a football club. It's not a hockey club. It's a hockey federation.
Yes, they're required that way, but they're basically saying that they're threatening to not release their players. And what you got to understand about this is they're going to release their players if Russia's going, because obviously the opportunity for Russia to win its first gold medal in hockey since 92, I want to say. Well, it's been a long time since Russia's won the gold medal, hasn't it? It's going to be there. If there's no NHL players there, the KHL is going to be obviously the next best league in the world, and they will have a great chance to win. So if Russia's allowed to go to the Olympics, they will absolutely, and represent Russia under themselves too. They don't want to go as the what do they call themselves, the neutral team or whatever, the team wearing all white.
the I don't know how you call it, the
CIS, that's what they were called back in the day.
Okay,
Federation of Independent States.
Yeah, the IOC team,
which is actually the last time they won the gold was then, but they weren't Russia then, come to think of it. So it was 88 the last time they won. Anyway, if they're not allowed to do that, they are threatening basically to pull out of the hockey tournament. And what that will mean is that they will be taking basically about 60% of the players that are currently going to go to these Olympics and represent pretty much every country other than Sweden. They're going to take all those players away. They were going to refuse to release them. They're going to play games in their schedule, and they're going to burn. I literally talked about a minute ago. I talked about them burning down the Olympics. They literally would burn the hockey tournament down if they do this. And this is a threat. It's a bullying tactic to looking at the IOC, and they're going, you want to pull us? Yeah, fine.
Yeah, and then what would happen is probably the IIHF would take back their sanctioning of that league, and then it becomes an outlaw league, and then it's a whole big hot mess. Well, cold mess in this case.
Well, they don't care though.
I know that's the thing. It's what can you do with someone that doesn't recognize your authority? It's like you're yelling at them. They're like, so what? Like, so what are you going to do about it? You're like in a tough position where you might have to take drastic measures.
This is not like FIFA, right? Like if the FIFA, like if you make an outlaw league in soccer, in football, you're screwing these players because they can't go anywhere else to play, right? Like they're basically persona non grata. They can't go anywhere in the world to play. But we're talking about hockey here, where there's only like about 4 or 5 countries in the world that really play at a professional level. They don't have that same power over them.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's what to do with Russia as a whole, and with the KHL situation. And you have the aspect of it too, that if the KHL doesn't go, there's a lot of Canadian players involved in the KHL as well now, and a lot of players from other places like Finland and other places where they're a very good national team that has a potential of being threats for the hockey tournament, that wouldn't have those players. And Sweden, having a decent league, would find itself as one of the favorite, if not the favorite.
You just give the gold medal to Sweden.
Yeah, just take it.
If this happens. I saw a projected lineup for Canada, and 15 of the 24 players or whatever they named to it were from the KHL. Like this is the second best league, maybe second or third, depending on what you think of the AHL league in the world. So if it's gone, like Sweden, Finland, Russia, well, Russia wouldn't be there. The States, the US would be devastated by this. Like they might as well not even show up. It would absolutely destroy this tournament. And what concerns me a little bit more, hockey is going to be fine. They're going to survive the fact that they're not in the Olympics and not the NHL players in the Olympics. They'll just be fine. But what I worry about this is on the women's side, because I think that if you tear down the men's tournament, you're going to take attention away from the women's tournament, and the women's tournament is the pinnacle, the absolute pinnacle of what the game is, and that's just completely unfair to the wonderful athletes that play women's hockey, right? That's
just to understand what you're saying is, because it won't be the pinnacle of the hockey world on the men's side, you think it's going to diminish the value of it on the women's side?
it's not going to diminish the value, but it's going to take away attention.
Okay, because you think there won't be as much attention on the hockey tournament in the men's side.
Yeah.
Because the because NHL players are not there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think about here in Canada, the Olympic tournament will be looked at in a less woo way than it would have been.
Sorry to interrupt, but you'll have your old pundits, the old guard on TV and the hockey commentator world will be saying, "Oh, it's not the highest level of hockey we could possibly see." That's not what it's about, though. I have a feeling it's going to be what I talked about last week. We will have a chance to see a star emerge and create a moment or create a career for himself because of an opportunity they would not have had if NHL players were going there. I think we'll be surprised by the caliber of hockey and by the interest that actual people will have because the NHL players. You know what happens when there's a new team like the Golden Knights in the league creates a lot of attention. What happens when there's new people, new players, new faces, new stories, new families, new teams arising, facing new challenges? It's going to create a lot of storylines, going to create a lot of attention, and I feel there might even be more attention to this hockey tournament because NHL players are not in it.
I hear you. And look, if you're a hockey fan, you're going to get into this tournament when it happens. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to be fun. You're going to meet. It's a strong way to put it. You're going to learn about players that maybe you didn't know about.
Yeah, kind of a meet. You meet them and they don't.
Yeah, and again, as a established hockey fan, you're going to enjoy the tournament. I remember 92. I remember 94. Those tournaments were fine. They were fun. But it's not going to have the same, resonance beyond it. Like if Canada's in the gold medal final, I doubt they're going to open the bars at 7 a.m. like they did 4 years ago. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to happen in the same way. It's not going to have the same value because Canadians, for instance, are going to understand instinctively that this tournament is kind of a weird sort of little experiment more than it is an actual value, like actual evaluation of what the best country in the world is, right? Like that we saw that.
It's not to determine the best hockey nation in the world right now. This is not what the tournament is about. The tournament is about a gold medal and which team can get it done on this tournament. There's a difference.
Yeah, and it's too bad that we haven't had a best on best really other than that little thing that was here last year in Toronto.
That was just terrible. That was a cash grab. That was not fun to watch. The jerseys were ugly. It was just, if you look in the stands, you got your answer. It wasn't worthy of a World Cup branding.
Team Europe. Team Europe's not how.
Team North America. What is this?
Well, Team Europe got the silver medal. Like how?
I know. That's what. Jeez. And they were amazing to watch, but damn, just orange and black. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I was at the final. The World Cup of Hockey. I got into the final in Toronto, in Canada, the heartland of hockey. I got a ticket off StubHub for $20 to get into a final game of the World Cup of Hockey. That's how exciting it was here. Anyway, no, it's going to be fun that way. It's going to be interesting that way as a hockey fan. I'm going to enjoy it, but it's not going to mean the same thing. It really isn't, and that's just a real shame. And if the KHL pulls out, it's going to mean even less. We're going to find out very soon what happens here, Kevin. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit before we said goodbye today, and we're going to be, for those of you out there that are tuning in because they think this is Soccer Today is going to be tomorrow, guys. We're going to really hyper focus on the MLS Cup final, which is Toronto versus Seattle, obviously.
Yeah, big interview, just a little teaser, big interview tomorrow scheduled. So we'll keep the name under wraps for now, but look for a familiar face on tomorrow's show.
Exactly. It's going to be a good time. Like I said, I've already booked all the guests for all week. It's going to be a good week. It's going to be a hyper focus the rest of the week on Soccer Today, on the MLS Cup final here in Toronto. We thought we'd do 5 rings today just to put it out there to make sure it got there. I wanted, before we do that, to talk about the Roar to the Rings, the curling trials that are going on right now. Basically, the way the curling trials work in Canada, as we said last week, this is almost the start of the Olympics in many ways.
Pretty much. It's the gold or silver that's up for grabs right now on TSN, by the way, for the next few days. Just open your TV. Doesn't matter what time it is. There's probably curling on TV.
Yeah, you've got the ranks on both the women's and the men's side to make Canada's one rink each from the women and the mixed are two going to go to the Olympics. And as I said, right now, after 3 draws, Kevin Coey, who's an Alberta rink, and people from outside of Canada might not know him, but this is a guy that's been a regular at the Brier, a regular in the world scene for a while, is on top at 3-0 right now. Mike McEwen, Brandon Botcher, which is a rink that we don't know a lot about, is in 1-1 right now. So this is going to be a hyper competitive approach the rest of the week to get basically the Olympic medal is what's going to happen there, Kevin. The way that this works is they play over the course of 4 years. They get points, and the top point getters from the World Tour, the Continental Tour, which is the money tour, and from the Brier and from the Scots on the women's side, they qualify that way, and then they eventually have some pre-qualifiers and work their way to the field of 10, which ultimately decides who is going to go to the Olympics. On the women's side, Kevin, right now, you know who's winning?
Without knowing at all, without having taken a look at everything, I would have to go with Jennifer Jones.
Jennifer Jones is 3-0 right now. The defending gold medalist, 3-0. Jen Jones, as we talked a lot about in our early shows, in our first ever shows, is a top of the mix.
There's Homan.
Rachel Homan, yeah.
Rachel Homan is one to watch too.
Yeah, it's early.
I know my curl. I know my barn spiel.
Rachel Homan is the defending world champion. She's 1-1 right now. But Jen Jones is 3-0. That rink, really those two rinks, Jen Jones, Rachel Homan, that rivalry in curling is maybe the best rivalry out there in a all Canadian sport environment.
All right. So how long before they drop the brooms and duke it out? Is that what we want to see? No, it's not that type of rivalry, isn't it?
No, not quite. The final is on next Sunday, December 10th. So we go from there.
December 10th. That's the day after the MLS Cup. Wow, interesting.
Well, yeah, and the Manchester Derby as well that week. So there you go.
Oh yeah, that'll be interesting. Will Pogba watch any Manchester City player be injured, or will he be on the field? Or maybe he will be injured by Manchester City players. Well, that's we said no soccer. All right, sorry, no soccer.
All right, no soccer today. Any final thoughts on our day today, Kevin?
I'm looking forward again to the steep road to the Olympics. So look for a little review on next 5 rings next week. But tonight, midnight, don't look for me. I know exactly what I'm doing.
All right. On that note, as always, Kevin, say goodbye.
You can follow Duane on Twitter at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee at 5 Rings Podcast to make sure you never miss a live show about the Olympics. And that's the place where during PyeongChang you will get your daily coverage of the game by Duane and I. And as always, soccer today, tomorrow. And until next time, enjoy your road to PyeongChang.
You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.